Right. Welcome everybody to this meeting, Standards Committee. It's 20th of June 2023. In accordance with the Constitution and as the Chairman of the Council, I shall be presiding over the first few items of business on the evening's agenda, up to the point of the election of the Chairman of this committee. First of all, we refer to the housekeeping document. Can you help us with that, Clerk?
Good evening. Please note that this meeting of the Standards Committee is being recorded by the Council for live broadcast and will be published on the Council website for a minimum of 6 months. Please could everyone present follow these ground rules. Only speak when invited to by the Chairman. If accessing via Teams, turn on your video function when invited to speak and state your name. Please use your microphones when speaking and mute or turn off your microphone when you are not talking. For those in the room, if the fire alarm sounds, please exit the building by way of the nearest available signed fire exit route and make your way to the assembly point along Bradley Road, under the flyover or in the surface car park at the front of the building. Finally, please ensure background noise is kept to a minimum and mobile phones and other devices are turned off or switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, we'll move on to the agenda item 1, which is apologies. Do we have apologies for this meeting?
Apologies received, Chairman, from Councillor Haynes and Councillor Maidment.
Right, and that leads straight on to item 2, substitute members. Are there any appointed substitutes for this meeting?
Yes, Chairman. Councillor Challoner is here as a substitute for Councillor Haynes and Councillor Andrews is here as a substitute for Councillor Maidment.
Thank you very much. On that note, we'll move on to agenda item 3, which is the election of the chair. Now, my first duty here is to seek nominations for the election of the chair. Do we have nominations from the floor?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Vanessa Ricketts, please.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder for that?
Yes, I would like to second Councillor Ricketts.
Thank you. Any more nominations? Left it long enough for anybody to come forward. Right, so one nomination has been received and seconded, and I can now hand over the chairing of the meeting to Councillor Ricketts.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Ricketts, would you like to come up to the chair? Right, congratulations, Councillor Ricketts. I'll hand over to you.
I'd like to thank the Chairman of the Council for taking the first few items, and thank you very much for this honour of being the Chairman of Standards. As many of you may know, I've been involved in Standards for the last 15 years, both as an officer and also as a member of the panel board for Standards in Public Life, working with the LGA to help develop the code that this council has adopted, or by one amendment. So I have very great pleasure in chairing this committee. Thank you. As councillors, we must all strive to act within the Nolan principles of public life, and unfortunately in the last council term we were one of the busiest committees, having to meet every 2 weeks to consider the number of complaints that we had received. I sincerely hope that in this new term, although I'm not scared of hard work, that we won't be as busy, and I hope that we can work with integrity. I am convinced that all the complaints that we receive, we will be dealing with in fairness, to ensure fact, to make sure that those that are determined to be in breach will also receive the sanctions that are due to them, and that this committee will be held in high regard. Unfortunately, there was in the last term a tendency to disregard the will of this committee by certain members. There was a certain degree of we just weren't taken seriously, and I really hope that this term we will be, and that our decisions will be taken on board, and that we will be considered to be a force to be reckoned with. Thank you. This being the first committee, before we get on to the next item, which is the Vice Chairman, could I please ask that all members introduce themselves, because there may be people who are watching, and we have new members here who, and it would be nice for people watching to know who the members are in the committee. Can I start, please?
Hello, yes, I'm Councillor Adrian Chapman-Law for Alderney and Bourne Valley, freshly elected this year.
Hi, I'm Councillor Nanovo, East Southbourne and Chuckton Ward.
Councillor Oliver Walters for Penhill.
Councillor Eleanor Connolly, newly elected for Boscombe East and Folkestone.
Councillor Marcus Andrews, I'm a substitute this evening, but prior to that I was on the Standards Committee for full 4 years of the previous council, so I've got some background knowledge.
Councillor John Challoner, Camford Cliffs Ward. I am substituting this evening on behalf of Councillor May Haynes, and we were both formerly cabinet members in a preceding council, or in Councillor Haynes's case, at BCP.
Thank you very much, members, for indulging me with that. We now move on to item 3, which is the election, item 4, which is the election of the Vice Chair. To elect a Vice Chair of the Standards Committee for the 2023-2024 municipal year. From the Chair, I would like to propose Councillor Chapman-Law. Do I have a seconder for this, please?
Yes, I second Councillor Chapman-Law.
Thank you very much. Councillor Chapman-Law, you are now Vice Chairman of the committee. Oh, yes, sorry. Oh, gosh. Are there any other nominations, please? Thank you. In that case, Councillor Chapman-Law. Item 5 on the agenda is declarations of interest. Can I ask councillors to declare any interest on items included in this agenda? There being no declarations of interest, I move on to item 6, which is the confirmation of the minutes, to confirm and sign as correct record the minutes of the meeting held on the 13th of March 2023. Do I have a proposer, please?
I attended that meeting, so I'm more than willing to propose accepting the minutes of that meeting, which was held at a time of 10 AM, which I assure the new members of the committee is not a normal time for holding Standards Committee meetings. It was held on that particular day so that the decisions could be reported to full council, but I propose. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Can I have a seconder for that, please? You do not have to have been present at that meeting to be able to second the motion. Thank you, Councillor Chapman. Thank you, Councillor Challoner.
I shall second.
Thank you. So we now move on to public issues. There have been no petitions or statements submitted from members of the public on this occasion, but 3 questions have been received. I'd like to invite Mr. McKinsey to read out his questions, please.
Good evening, committee. Can you hear me all right, Chair? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Splendid, okay, so I'll crack on. I see from table 1 in tonight's report that complaint number 97, BCP 097, is still unresolved. Those who followed Standards Committee meetings earlier this year will recall how the councillor involved in this complaint overlooked 3 related letters or emails dating back to the 15th of September, and then introduced fresh evidence, inverted commas, when they did reply on the 27th of February. A further determination was made on the 13th of March in the light of this new evidence, but Table 1 suggests that the complaint remains upheld, and once again the committee is awaiting a reply from the subject councillor. Is this correct? And if so, can we have an update on what has happened with the complaint since the 13th of March?
Thank you, Ms McKinsey. Can I please ask our Deputy Monitoring Officer to provide an answer to that question? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Mr McKinstry, good evening. In response to your question, this matter remains live and it's still at the informal stage of the process. You'll see that it's referred to in the report to be considered by the committee tonight, which has not yet been considered or accepted. By way of reassurance, I am in correspondence with the subject councillor, and in the event of the absence of a response from the councillor within a reasonable time, a report will be presented to the next meeting of formal standards. Thank you.
Okay, just to clarify, have all three allegations in complaint BCP 097 been upheld? I suppose you can't answer that, but just wondering.
I can in fact answer that, and I can confirm that the entire complaint was upheld by the chair after consultation with the members of the Standards Committee, the independent persons and the monitoring officer.
Thank you very much.
And your third question, please, Ms McKinsey.
Okay, complaint number 132, BCP 132, attracted much interest, involving, as it did, 6 breaches of the Code of Conduct by Councillor Mark Anderson and his subsequent resignation from Cabinet. That complaint is now marked determined, but at the summing up on the 28th of February, this committee said it would be asking the Chief Executive to carry out a separate investigation into areas of concern it had identified. So my question is, can we, the public, be told anything about that investigation at this stage? Even basic information, such as whether the investigation has started yet, what its precise terms of reference are, what its timescales are, whether it will be reporting back to this committee, etc., etc.
Thank you. Deputy Monitoring Officer, if I may, please.
Thank you, Chair. I am able to confirm that the committee did share its further concerns with the Chief Executive, but that these matters remain still entirely confidential.
Okay, thanks both.
Thank you very much, Ms McKinsey. I'm afraid that I do owe 2 members present here a sincere apology for omitting to introduce yourselves when the other introductions were done. I'd like to thank our independent persons for being present today, Mr Ian Sibley and Mr Paul Cashmore. Thank you so much for attending and for your continued service during this council term as well. Thank you. If there's anything that you would like to say, I'd be happy to hear you. Thank you.
Paul, would you mind if I went first? Is that all right? It's only very quick, Chair. Just to give the committee a bit of background, I spent my working life in industry as a personnel manager. I took early retirement, became a JP in Bournemouth, and as it then became Paul. Done lots of unpaid work since then in my joined the Standards Committee at Christchurch about 15 years ago. Then it became Christchurch and East Dorset, then Bournemouth, and now it's BCP. That's summing up of my background and experience, Chair.
Thank you. Mr Cashmore, is there anything you wish to add?
Yeah, I just to introduce myself. I am a civil servant with MOD. I've been on this committee for 4 years as an independent person, and I'm looking forward to the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you both so much for your service. We really do appreciate it. Thank you. I'd now like to move on, please, to item 8, which is the Code of Conduct Complaints Review. And I believe that our Deputy Monitoring Officer is leading on this item, please.
Thank you once again, Chair. So I hope members of the committee have had a chance to, and the independent persons have had a chance to read the report. But before starting to address it, just really to set out that for new members that details of the complaints for the most part are resolved informally, and so there's no information that would identify the subject councillor, and there's a limit to the kinds of information that can be presented in the report, because all matters that are concluded at the informal stage remain confidential. So just to set that out at the start. But I hope you'll see from the report that many of those matters that remained pending at this last Standards Committee, through the work that Chair, you yourself have referred to, are now determined. You'll see that there are a handful of complaints that do remain outstanding and remain pending. But one of those difficulties has been that we have been in an election period, and complaints are often very politically sensitive, and we've been bound by the pre-election guidance. So it hasn't been possible to progress those. But by way of some reassurance, the committee will be aware that we do have a meeting directly, a standards meeting, where it's hoped that at the very least, all of those outstanding matters will be progressed, if not settled by way of a determination. There are a couple of matters that to note. One is the matter that Mr. McKinstry has already referred to, 97, again by way of reassurance in the event that a satisfactory explanation or a response within a timely fashion is not received. I do propose to bring this matter back to the next meeting of standards for consideration. So just to offer some reassurances in that regard. And I think that's it. But if there are any further questions, please feel free to ask.
Before I open this to the floor, can I just ask that there's no further updates on anything other than on 97?
No, not from the report as set out.
In future, I just wonder if it's possible if we could also keep a note of how many complaints have been handled by the monitoring officer and dismissed as part of our the way we handle complaints. For anybody that is listening online, the first course of action is that our monitoring officer considers these complaints, and some may be dismissed straight away for various reasons before they even come to us. So I think it might be handy just to keep a tally of those, just so that we can see how many are coming in during this council term. Thank you.
Chair, can I just say in response to that, those complaints are reflected in the reports generally. There aren't any in this report, and I think that's because generally these complaints are so complex that it's been necessary to, they've passed the initial assessment with the monitoring officer, and it's been necessary to pass them on. But thanks for bringing that to my attention.
Thank you very much. Can I open this to the floor? Are there any questions, please? Councillor Andrews.
Thank you very much. I recall one of the criteria for us to consider a complaint against somebody was that they were an elected member of the council. Now, obviously, following in the elections, there's been a large change of the personnel that were elected 2019, etc., etc. And I would imagine that some of the complaints here can no longer be progressed because the member is no longer a member of the council anymore. So, you know, will some of these complaints now come off the list?
Deputy Monitoring Officer.
That certainly, as Councillor Andrews is aware, one of the for a complaint to progress and for there to be a sanction or an appropriate remedy, the person complained about must be a member of the council, and so to that extent a complaint would fall away. However, it may be that it's in the public interest and in the interests of justice for and due process for that matter to be considered nevertheless, despite the fact that it won't be possible to impose any kind of remedy or sanction. It may be possible for there to be lessons learned for the council as a whole or for members more widely. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Councillor Chapman-Law.
Yes, during the course of last year, I know that there was a number of complaints that went missing Just wondered if we got to the bottom of where of what happened in the process of why they went missing.
There was a time when there was a very, very high volume of complaints, and some were directed to the general complaints email, and then for some reason weren't redirected. But I believe that issue is resolved now, and certainly those workers managing the staff managing the inquiries inbox are certainly very aware of where those complaints need to go, and so that hasn't been a repeating issue since the middle of last year. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, please? Can I go to our independent persons, please? Are there any questions that you might have to the Deputy Monitoring Officer on her report?
Yeah, it's one of the themes that ran through complaints last year was to do with social networking, Twitter and Facebook, etc. Some of the remedies that were proposed were included training for councillors. Has that been addressed? Is that happening?
Good evening, Mr. Cashmore. It's proposed that no training has run yet, but it's certainly on the horizon, so it is proposed in the near future, as I understand it. The monitoring officer might have some further update in that regard.
Only through you, Chair, only to confirm that yes, it's part of our training for councillors, and I think this year we will run it repeatedly throughout the year for all councillors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, can I come in and just ask that the independent persons are invited to that training, please?
Yes, that will certainly happen, Mr. Sibley. Thank you. I also think that if we have any complaints that are upheld which involve social media, that training will need to be as mandatory as we can possibly make it for those people that are found to be in breach when it comes to social media, because it has caused us quite a lot of problems, as Mr. Cashmore said, in the last term. Thank you. Any other further questions? No, well, in that case, thank you very much, everybody, for attending this committee meeting of the Standards Committee. The time is now 8:23, and Monitoring Officer, thank you.
With respect, Chair, I wonder if you could just ask the committee to confirm that they've noted the report.
Thank you. Sorry, please can we confirm that we have noted the report, and then are there any other further proposals on the report? No. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Monitoring Officer. Yes, the report is noted. Thank you. So the time is now 8:23 still, and
Chairman, it's actually 6:23.
18:23. I'll get it right in a minute. This has been a long day. Thank you very much for attending. I'll bring this meeting to a close. Thank you.